A famous pastor just had a supernatural experience which confirms many specific details about America's future. Well, it may be. We don't know. Prophecy, we can't say if prophecy is accurate or not unless it actually takes place. That is after the fact. Now, will things get so bad that some states eventually want to try to secede from the Union? God keeps sending us warnings, but most of the population does not want to listen. This is by Michael Schneider. He says, earlier today I learned about a stunning experience that Chris Reed just had, and I knew I had to share it with you. And by the end of this article, I think that you'll understand why. So many of the things that he was just specifically shown are things that I have been warning about for years, and I believe that many of the things which he saw will soon come to pass. Chris Reed was not always a famous pastor, but now he has become famous as he takes the mantle of leadership from Rick Joyner at Morning Star Mysteries. There appears to be a strong prophetic anointment in his life, and this most recent experience that he had really got my attention. On the morning of the March 25th, Reed had a very vivid dream. In his dream, he was looking at a man that he did not know that was dressed in a black suit. The man was holding a $50 bill, and Reed said that he tore the $50 bill up in 3 different stages. To me, the $50 bill could represent the 50 US states, so I found that to be very interesting. After each of the 3 stages, various people came up to Reed and handed him headlines about the future of America. Of course, others had had similar experiences in the past. While he was still alive, John Paul Jackson would have experiences in which he was shown headlines about the future of our country, and many of those have already come to pass. The headlines that Reed was given are perfectly consistent with what many other men and women of God have been shown about America's future, and I'd like to go through each one of them and share my thoughts. The first headline that Reed was given had to do with the US dollar. The first headline read this: the dollar drops 30% in value. A subtitle to the headline was, Middle East oil countries strike deal with China instead of the US. This has not happened yet, but without a doubt the US dollar is in serious trouble. Last month I wrote an article about the petrodollar, could be on the way out. The Chinese would like to use their own currency to pay for the oil that they purchase from Saudi Arabia, and the Saudis are apparently very open to what China is proposing. If the monopoly of the petrodollar is broken, that could definitely send the value of the US dollar plunging. Reed's second headline also had to do with the financial realm. I was given another headline which read, The Perfect Storm, Inflation Reaches a New High. Month after month, the inflation rate in the US has been hitting new highs, so there is not anything too revolutionary here. But I did find it quite noteworthy that the perfect storm was used in this headline. More than a decade ago, John Paul Jackson used that phrase to describe a period of unprecedented chaos that was coming to America, and I believe that we have now entered that time. The third headline focused on something that's literally in the news this week. Then another person came up to me and handed me a news headline, Food Shortage Crisis as Wheat and Bread Imports Are at a Stalemate. I've been writing about the rapidly growing global food crisis more than anything else lately. For example, please see the article 20 Facts About Emerging Global Food Shortage that should chill you to the core. So there were widespread shortages of food all over the world right now. Things will get much worse in the months ahead. Reed's fourth headline sounds like something that will happen as millions of Americans become increasingly desperate. Another headline was then handed to me, which said something like, Riots and civil unrest and citizens demand entitlement checks. This was the only headline where I could not remember the exact wording of. What I shared was close to it. There has been lots of rioting in the US in recent years, but the sort of riots that Reed is describing have not yet happened. But as our economic problems greatly escalate, I believe that such riots are not too far away. The fifth headline just about floored me, and as you read, I think you'll see why. Then the dream focused again on the man in the black suit. This time he tore the $50 bill in half. When he did this, an earthquake happened under my feet. Another person came up to me and handed me a headline that read, Israeli and Palestinian two-state solution reached. Then another person came up to me and gave me a headline, Major earthquake hits the Middle East of the U.S., the middle of the U.S. Then the man in the black suit took the $50 bill and started tearing it into small pieces one by one. I don't know if Reed realizes this, but others have been seeing the same exact thing for decades. In fact, chapter 5 of my book entitled Lost Prophecies of the Future of America is all about a gigantic New Madrid earthquake that physically rips the U.S. in half following the division of the land of Israel. God has shown countless men and women of God that such a disaster will happen, and now Reed is yet another confirming voice. And to me, it seems like the 6th and 7th headlines probably go together. Another person walks up to me and hands me another headline, America in pieces, more states secede from the nation in retaliation to the federal government. I was then handed another headline which said, the U.S. military takes charge as uncertainty looms over the federal government. We certainly are not at such a point yet, but without a doubt, animosity between left and right continues to rise. Will things get so bad that some states eventually want to try to secede from the Union? It appears that this is what Reed's dream could be suggesting. The last three headlines shift the focus back to finances and food. Then the man in black suit took out a new dollar bill. It was a $1 US bill. What was interesting about it was that the $1 bill looked like a cell phone. I did see George Washington's face on it, but it looked very different than a normal $1 bill. I remember looking at it and just studying it, and I was kind of pondering why this $1 bill looked like a cell phone. Another person came up and handed me a headline, and the newspaper headline read, New currency for a renewed nation. Another headline was handed to me saying, Simplicity restored as Americans grow their own food, and then I woke up. As the economy crumbles, will the federal government attempt to institute a brand new currency? Will this new currency be a digital currency? Well, we know that Biden just a few days ago did suggest that. Now, the US dollar is certainly going to be headed for the big trouble, so perhaps a new currency is introduced in a desperate attempt to restore order. I don't know. Reed seems to think that the phrase a renewed nation indicates that America will eventually be renewed, quote unquote. But I think another explanation is probably more likely. A news outlet such as CNN or New York Times may run a positive headline like that to put a positive spin on things. But in reality, the introduction of a new currency will be an act of complete and utter desperation by the federal government. I think that the last headline is similar. Americans won't be growing their own food because they want to go back to the good old days. Rather, they will be growing their own food because the system is totally breaking down all around them. Anyway, that is how I see it. In any event, it seems clear that Reed was shown a period of unprecedented chaos in this country. And as I've carefully documented, countless others have been shown the exact same thing. We have been waiting for the perfect storm for quite some time, and now I believe it has begun. Unfortunately, even most Christians still do not understand what's coming, and so most will be absolutely blindsided by the nightmares that are rapidly approaching. And this was written about 6 months ago. So, yeah, a lot of things have changed concerning energy crisis, inflation, and of course, supply shortages, and of course, the worst of all, food crisis. And this is by Michael Schneider on Collective Spark. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. About the author, my name is Michael Schneider. He says in my brand new book entitled 7-Year Apocalypse is now available on Amazon. In addition to my new book, I have written 5 others that are available on Amazon. Lost Prophecies of the Future of America, The Beginning of the End, Get Prepared Now, and Living a Life That Really Matters. By purchasing the books, you help to support the work that my wife and I are doing, and by giving it to others, you help to multiply the impact that we are having on people all over the globe. I've published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, End of the American Dream, and the Most Important News. And the articles that I publish on those sites are republished on dozens of other prominent websites all over the globe. I always freely, happily allow others to republish my articles on their own websites, but I also ask that they include this about the author section in each article. The material contained in this article is for general information purposes only, and readers should consult licensed professionals before making any legal, business, financial, or health decisions. I encourage you to follow me on social media on Facebook and Twitter, and any way that you can share these articles with others is a great help. During these very challenging times, people will need hope more than ever, and it's our goal to shape and share the gospel of Jesus Christ with as many people as we possibly can. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.